I'm making this video today about the merging of two technologies. One of them's ancient technologies in the obelisks and the pyramids, and the other is new technology called the Haarp. The obelisks, if you've watched some of my other videos, I talk a lot about the obelisk on Hill Cumorah in Palmyra, New York, and what that's aligned with in the Monroe County, Rochester, Webster, Wayne County, New York area. But since then, and I've asked myself several times, you know, what are they doing with this obelisk grid system, which seems to be active somehow? You know, and I kept asking, how is this thing powered? Well, now I discovered that this obelisk grid system is set up and connected to, it seems, the Haarp system, which is modern technology. Now this Haarp system is really something to be concerned about and understand what it is, because this thing is a huge antenna array up in Alaska, and what they did is they found a natural gas field, a huge natural gas field, and they're using that natural gas to power this Haarp system. And this guy wrote the book as if it was the ultimate weapon of the conspiracy, whatever that conspiracy is. But I can tell you right now, what this thing is capable of doing is absolutely incredible. This is Nikola Tesla technology. This thing was part of the Star Wars system, where they would heat up the atmosphere and cause the atmosphere to rise, and that would cause missiles to explode on re-entry because they would experience too much heat. This thing, that's just one of the things it does. It was originally an ionospheric heater for research. Why they want to boil the ionosphere or heat the ionosphere, I don't know, but that's what they officially said it was for. But this thing does a lot more. It communicates with submarines. It can take the electromagnetic energy of the Earth and direct that energy into whatever frequency, you know, they program into it. You know, there's people that say that this can be used for mind control because it can match the natural frequency of the human brain. And when you start doing that and blasting this over and broadcasting over big areas or little areas, and what they can do with this is incredible. They can blast this over broad areas, or they can concentrate it like a laser beam. And I don't know a lot about the technology. I mean, a little bit I know from that book and some other stuff I've read. It's just something that really is to be concerned about, and to think that, like I said, that they've merged these two technologies together, that is really something to be concerned about, because, you know, what realm that brings us into is a realm that is really beyond, you know, the average human being's capability to understand, especially when you see what this thing is also connected to, this Haarp. It looks to me like this thing is broadcasting and somehow in tune with the planet Saturn, and I'll show you why I say that here in a minute. Okay, I want to show you this system set up on Google Earth. It's really a great tool to show you this, and it's a tool, the only tool that's out there that you could even figure this stuff out with. But anyway, and I'm only going to show you a couple points. There's a lot more connections to this grid system, but I'm going to show you the ones that I think are pertinent to kind of introduce you to this, and I'm sure I'll do more videos on this later. But this is the United States. This right here is Central Park in Manhattan, and that is the location of the obelisk that was brought here in the 1800s, the late 1800s, I believe it was the 1880s, from Egypt. And this is an original Ramses obelisk. This was built 3,500 years ago. That is ancient technology. Okay, and I want to show you what this is connected to numerologically and in alignments. And I'm not going to give you all the numbers that connects these. You can do that yourself, because that takes a long time. But there's the Ramses obelisk, and you see this straight line here Okay, I'm going to tilt the Earth a little bit and show you how straight this line is, okay? That's the Ramses Obelisk in Manhattan, and this yellow line from the Ramses Obelisk, that is the Vatican right there, okay? That is Italy, Rome, the Vatican. You see this line dead straight, and by the way, in the Vatican, there is another Egyptian obelisk in the middle of the Vatican, okay? So from that ancient Egyptian obelisk, which was also a Ramses, to this one is a straight line, and then as you proceed, and watch this, you go from the Ramses obelisk to a deep sea obelisk. This is in the middle of the southern Pacific, and what is disturbing and weird about this is that this obelisk in New York City is in a numerical alignment with this. This was put here in the 1880s, and somebody needs to tell me how people knew there was a submerged obelisk in the middle of the South Pacific in the 1880s. Let alone, you know, whenever this was lined up with the Vatican. I mean, the Vatican's obviously ancient too. But look at how straight that line is from the Vatican obelisk, ancient technology, through Ramses in New York City, Central Park, to this obelisk in the South Pacific. And I'm going to take you down to this one because this thing is absolutely bizarre. And I love Google Earth because literally you can actually go into the water and see this. It's obviously not a picture. It's some type of computer generated, you know, image, but it's obviously accurate. But let's take you down there and take a quick look at this thing because this thing is amazing. And it's like, what put it there? What is it? It's right here. This thing, I tried to measure it, and the best I could measure is about 1,000 feet straight up. 1,000 feet, and it's like a couple thousand feet at its base. But if you can see, this is scanning the ocean floor, and there's nothing around here. This is just smooth ocean bottom, and here you got this thing, which is like an obelisk, lined up to the Ramses obelisk, which was put there in the 1880s, and here it is in the middle of the South Pacific, 1,000 feet straight up. That's some really weird stuff, and it'd be interesting to find out, you know, how we knew about this. You know, it really makes you wonder, you know, the secrets of the world and you know, what we don't know. But anyway, now you saw that straight line. Now here's a line. You ready for this? This is from the deep sea obelisk to the modern technology of Haarp. This is Australia. This is where that Haarp apparatus is, which is also connected to what I'm going to call Mother Haarp in Alaska. Okay, and then when you continue around, you end up back at the Vatican. Okay, so from the Vatican to Ramses to the deep sea is a nice straight line, and then you can see that line changes angles a little bit as it hits that deep sea obelisk, but from there back to Haarp and then back to the Vatican, it's straight again. So these are alignments that are done on purpose. That is not by accident, okay? Now, I also want to take you from the Haarp in Australia, okay, because this is in a numerical alignment with Ramses, and when I drew this on Google Earth, this is the line it draws. You know, when you take 2 points, Google Earth does the drawing. I'm sure it does that by the shortest distance. So, and this is back to Ramses, okay? Now I want to take you down to the Haarp and show you this thing and show you the planet Saturn, and I want to show you the shape that this Haarp antenna array in Australia is set in the Earth, and I want to show you the Hexagon, which is a set feature on Saturn, and show you that I think that they're using this somehow to communicate with Saturn. Don't ask me what would come out of that, but they're doing that, and I think they're pumping it through this system. And believe me, there's a lot more to this than this. I just wanted to do the basic, you know, major system around the Earth and show you, you know, how this thing is set up. Show you a short video here about this hexagon on Saturn. But keep in mind that this thing was known long before this satellite, or 2006 or whatever they're talking about. This hexagon on Saturn is found in ancient hieroglyphs. you know, old stone writings. This is when Saturn, probably they knew about it when Saturn was actually the sun's, the Earth's sun, back thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, or whatever. Saturn used to be the Earth's sun, and that's when the Earth was purple, because this was I believe they called it a white dwarf, and this emitted a purple light. And it was only on the north side of the Earth. It was actually due north, and it was in a rotation with the Earth before it left, you know, that pattern and started circling around the sun. And that's where this cult of Saturn obviously starts from. And these symbols that are in this hexagon are a big part of this cult of Saturn.
In early 2007, modern imaging technology revealed something else on Saturn that astounded scientists.
We see it very, very intensely now.
It's something big, something strange, and something never seen in the universe before. Saturn, the solar system's most bizarre yet beautiful planet, has just gotten even more mysterious. In 1979, the Voyager spacecraft showed a perfect geometric form over the North Pole. In October 2006, the Cassini craft found that it is still there.
It's just bizarre, and it sits there kind of still. It doesn't move with the planet. The pole, there's a hexagonal feature, a 6-sided polygon that encircles the pole at about 78 degrees north latitude. And it's sitting there as a set feature.
The hexagon is similar to Earth's polar vortex, which has winds blowing in a circular fashion around the pole. Saturn's vortex can fit 4 Earths inside of it and extends 60 miles deep into Saturn's clouds.
And what's more bizarre, Voyager saw little tiny clouds going around at about 100 meters per second, which is about 200 miles an hour, going around this racetrack. People thought, well, maybe it's just a temporary thing. How could this stay there? It's been there now for at least 20 years, and we're going, what is this?
It's been there thousands of years. That is some wild stuff right there. That hexagon on Saturn is a set feature. It's a set hexagon. It's been observed, and it's been observed through modern science, but it was also observed thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago, when it was written in the hieroglyphs and the stone writings. So that is nothing new. Okay, now we're going to go down and take a look at this Haarp system in Australia. And that's the lines this thing is connected to, which I'm going to turn those off just to get them out of the way so we can look at this thing. But this is the Haarp antenna array in Australia. And I'm going to show you this. Make sure you can see this here. This, you can see this hexagon feature, okay? Just like Saturn. And I'm going to highlight this for you. I wrote over it. See that? That is the same hexagon that's on Saturn. Okay? Now, also, if you look at the ancient hieroglyphs, they depict this hexagon on Saturn as a hexagon, but they also depict it, and if you look into this, you can see this is also in this antenna array. But they also depict this as the 6-pointed star, or the Star of David. And that Star of David is an ancient symbol long before the Jewish religion was ever created. And that symbol had to do with that hexagon on Saturn. It's, like I said, that symbol is found in ancient stone writings, in hieroglyphs, you know, from tens of thousands of years ago. But what's really interesting too is there's also, when you look at this, okay, you ready for this? Look at that. That right there is a Monroe County Sheriff's badge. And there's a lot of counties that have this six-pointed star as their badge. But you can see how perfectly that sits right in that Haarp antenna array. And I'm telling you, they're using this thing to communicate with that hexagon on Saturn. Why are they merging ancient and modern technology? I guarantee it's not to benefit, you know, people like me and you. That I can guarantee you. They won't even tell you this thing exists. But we're going to follow this. This is from the Haarp antenna array in Australia. We're going to go over this way, and we're going to end up in Manhattan, New York City at the Ramses Obelisk. So here we got modern technology halfway around the world, and we have ancient technology, and that's how that's connected. You see that? They got this thing attacking from 3 different directions.